ora koutou and welcome to another episode of Women Where It Matters. I'm Grace Thomas.
And I'm Natasha Payne.
And this week we're taking a deeper look into the growth of Pasifika Theatre in Aotearoa.
So we went along to meet the actors of the court theatre production Fresh Off the Boat.
Fresh Off the Boat is a classic 90s take on a young man's journey to Aotearoa to hook up with his sister and her young family and their Palani boyfriend, and how he is assimilated into New Zealand society, and the clashes, the love, the humour, the emotion, the sadness, the anger, the fury he has, all those experiences as he tries to come to grips with life in New Zealand.
Let's go.
Yeah.
90s hook up means like to get together. Yeah, not
A lot of people have been saying that it's even more relevant now than it was 25 years ago. What would you kind of say to that?
Well, social media makes every social issue kind of, blows it up a lot quicker, a lot faster. So the issues were relevant, were real back then, but we didn't have Facebook and Instagram to hear about every instance that happened in our society. So, same, sad.
How important is it that the court theatre is, showing a production like this?
I think we've passed the point of using theatre as a way to break down stereotypes.
Right.
I think that it was put on because it's a good piece of theatre. It's awesome. It was awesome writing. It was ahead of its time 25 years ago. And part of putting it up was that it's just a really good piece of theatre. Like for me, this story is just an insight. One issue that Samoans face, not even just Samoans, but any people who migrate to New Zealand, there's just one issue that they face.
Oh, you get someone to take your things, eh, man?
A large part of the audience will not have ever interacted with Pacific people at this kind of personal level, and so we have been asked about the stereotypes, and it's not really our responsibility to demystify those. And we are absolutely grateful for the relationship that the court has with Pacific Underground, but it doesn't validate our stories. It's important because of building relationships that are multicultural, that represent more of what our society is about. Being at the court doesn't validate Pacific stories. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now you're on the main stage of the court theatre. We made it. Now we're finally here. It's no, we've been here for decades.
Being in the show has been really fun. These guys are so awesome. Always distracting, but always really awesome. Working with Mom was it was good. It was really interesting just to see her work, because we've seen the way that she works, but in a music world or in an office world, and for her to bring that to the stage for us was awesome.
Now we're joined by Tanya Moakotatia, whose career in performing arts and Pasifika Theatre has spanned over 30 years. Tanya, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So you've been involved in Pasifika Theatre for about 30 years now. Can you tell us a bit about how you got started out in this area?
I've always liked performing. And I was in a band, I think was one of the first sort of public things that I did. And I got involved with some people that were involved in theatre. And Simon Small, who's actually a graduate from here as well, he's a friend, and he asked me if I would be interested in lighting, like doing lighting operating or something like that. He asked me in a bar, and I was like, yeah, sure. But he said, I'm asking you because I know you'll say yes, and it's really easy, you'll learn it, and you're fast at learning all that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever that means. I didn't know what I was signing up for, and then I ended up being the lighting operator and rigger for a play called Horizons, which was written by him, and that was the first Pacific play that came out of Christchurch.
Now let's talk about Fresh Off the Boat, which you're directing and is currently showing in the Court Theatre. How does it feel going from acting in the show 25 years ago to directing it now?
Wow. It just shows my age, really. It was so long ago when I was in it, so I didn't really know a lot. I learnt a lot from the company that I was in when I was acting in it, from Nathaniel, from David, from Oscar, from everybody, you know, like I was the least experienced and didn't have a huge part, but it was just quite an awesome ride because we toured it, and so it was over a couple of years we'd been to a lot of places with that one play, you know, so yeah, that was an amazing time to be part of it, and then, you know, here we are today, and I've directed these amazing young people, and they have way more experience on the floor than I did when I was in it. So I think my take on it this time is just, okay, well, they've got a certain set of skills, and how can I use and make the most of the skills that they have?
So your two daughters are performing in the show, Talia, Ray and Josephine. How does that feel when you're seeing them on stage?
I've worked with them before, you know, and I'm always proud of them, and they've got, you know, they've got quite a lot of experience and a whole lot of different things that they've done here in Christchurch and in Auckland. So I know that they're more than capable of doing, you know, whatever is asked of them. But it can't be easy because I'm their mum, you know, and I appreciate that, poor things. But you know, it's not just me; it's the cast as an ensemble are really, you know, they're really supportive of them, of what they're doing, and they work together really well. You know, and I'm always proud of them, whatever they do. You know, they always put their heart and soul into it.
Would you say the play has sort of been reborn for a new generation?
Well, I think the important thing for PU is that we've maintained the storytelling element of us as Samoans living in, or as Pasifika living in New Zealand. So, you know, this 25-year journey has always been the same in the way that we deliver it. So I think why it's relevant is because the rest of New Zealand are kind of catching up to what we've been doing for a really long time. And that's not because of us, but that's because of everything that's been happening in Christchurch. You know, we've had such a hard time here. And then, you know, then the shootings of March 15 heightens the awareness of what is actually going on. So for us to be able to sort of just maintain what we're doing, you know, people are going, oh, you know, they're more woke now about what's going on. But we've kind of been sort of going, yeah,
It wasn't a surprise.
No, not really. But it's, you know, like we can turn the tables now. We can tell these stories with love and understanding, and that's what we've always wanted. You know, it's about sharing our stories so that people can understand that there are different people that have come to Christchurch and lived here and made a living, and you know, and we're different. We've always been different, and especially in Christchurch, we're even more different. And we've faced, you know, some hardships from attitude, prejudice, and racism, but yet we carry on, and yet we provide these stories so that people can understand and have a more appreciation of how different people cope in the city.
Just over 7% of New Zealanders are Pasifika. And this number is just growing. So how important is it that actors and storytellers of Pasifika heritage keep sharing their stories and have the platforms to do so?
Well, I think it's, you know, as the generations go, so like my kids, so Talia Ray is part of a collective called Why Not in Christchurch, and they're a young Pasifika theatre collective sharing stories much the same as PU, but they've got their own flavour, they've got a great attitude, and for them, I think, and their peers, you know, because this is 25 years later or over 20 years later, you know, that it's a sense of identity for them. They're further away from where I grew up, you know, how I grew up, you know, with the teachings of my parents and their grandparents. So for them to be able to revive these stories and create their own and honour, you know, her ancestors who are my ancestors, you know, that gives them a stronger sense of belonging and identity.
Do you think, you know, more people's kind of horizons, I guess, are being broadened when they come and watch a Pasifika play or show, particularly Pakeha?
Yeah, for sure. And the court theatre is a perfect place for that because the court audience is, you know, predominantly Pakeha. And we've had a Q&A with, you know, people, you know, a couple of guys asking, oh, you know, one guy said, oh, I'm really worried that, you know, all Samoan men are like this, you know, and this one of the characters, and you know, and our answer to that is, don't worry, you know, it's just play, you know, kind of thing. But that's what we're bringing to the stage, isn't it? You know, we're bringing these people, you know, a family, and you know, these issues. We're bringing issues. So yeah, for sure. And you know, we've had other people that have just said, oh, we just really love the show, you know, and it's going really well, you know. And I haven't talked to the court about, you know, if the ticket sales are good for their season. I just, you know, we've had good houses, and I've talked to some lovely people you know, afterwards they've just come up and said they really appreciate it. And I really like it. You know, if they, and some people go because they've won some package or it's part of some function that they've had to go to. You know, it's part of their thing. And the one thing there was a private function that, you know, and I just remember seeing, you know, a couple of guys leaving the venue and shaking the hand of our lead actor, you know, just sort of, I really appreciate that. And I just thought, that's kind of cool. Because that guy probably didn't want to come. He was just, you know, part of it. Yeah, but that's the kind of thing that, you know, that's really important for us. You know, it's the stories are for everybody. It's not just for our community, you know. So, and this show in particular, because it's 25 years old, has kind of that introductory factor to it. You know, it's like, this is the simple story about a Samoan family in Christchurch, you know, and it's, yeah, so it's 25 years old, so people are still going, oh, I didn't know that, you know, and so that's cool.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Tanya.
That's all good.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of Women Where It Matters. Ka kite anō.